Hello, everyone, and good morning, and welcome to another author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Many of you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, and joining us today is an author making their official debut here on the channel. Now, my guest today is an author of science fiction and fantasy closed-door romance. Born and raised in an American military community, she moved to Florida at 17 to earn a BFA in illustration from the Ringling School of Art and Design. As an artist, she dabbles in many mediums, including sculptures, painting, embroidery, pies, and drawing dinosaurs. A good time out with friends includes boba tea, sushi, escape rooms, and frozen yogurt. She lives in Central Florida with her supportive husband and family, and she is the mother of 5 books and 2 fantastic children. Her book, Beyond the Wall, has won awards. She was a finalist in the 2024 Wishing Self Book Awards and a finalist at the 19th Annual National Indie Excellence Awards. So, without further ado, everybody, let's give a huge round of applause to our esteemed guest today, author and artist, Jessica Kaye. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. So excited to have you here, Jessica. Now, before we dive into your background as an author, is there a random fact about you that not a lot of people may know?
Well, people who know me know this, but it's not exactly something other people would know. I do have a struggle with mental health, actually, that I have worked very hard to overcome. I have severe bipolar disorder, anxiety, OCD, and Tourette syndrome. So it's something that I've always been proud of that I've been able to overcome, even though I'm still struggling with it.
Wow. My goodness. Well, congratulations on, still overcoming and still working hard at, and also being an advocate for mental health. That is incredible, Jessica. That is incredible. And going back to your bio again, you are also the mother of 5 incredible works of fiction. Now, do you have those books available to share with the viewers and listeners to get an idea of your writing range?
Okay, yes, I do. My very first novellas were Rapunzel and Rapunzel's Prince, and these are fairy tale retellings. They are parallel novels, so it's the same story in both books, but from different points of view. Let's see. My next book was called Operatives Attract, and it's about 2 secret agents on opposite sides of the law, and they have no idea that their arch nemesis is the person sitting next to them in physics class in school.
Ooh, nice.
Another book that I've written is called Taunting Gravity. It's a science fiction. These are all clean romances, meaning that there's kisses only, no swearing, no gore. And my last book, well, not the most recent, but I'm featuring today, is Beyond the Wall, about a girl who's on a quest to save her sister from this illness that she has. And the mythical cure is on the other side of the world. And she promised her mother on her mother's deathbed that she wouldn't go alone. And the only one who would go with her is this joke cracking, goofy guy. And she can't stand barely being around him because he's so happy. And she's like, no, they're supposed to be stoic on a quest. And that one's won 2 awards, the ones you mentioned. And I also just found out that Taunting Gravity is a finalist for the Wishing Shelf Book Awards this year.
Nice. Congratulations, Jessica. That is amazing. Wow. So you've been around to write all of these incredible stories. That is amazing. So before we dive deep into all of them, and more specifically Beyond the Wall, let's talk a little bit more about you and what led you to this path. So again, from your bio, you grew up in an American military community, and then at 17, you got your BFA in illustration and specialized in a wide range of mediums. Were you always a very creative person after that, or specifically, were you always a creative person even before you got your degree? And what really changed from, working with like the physical mediums of like artistry, sculpturing, and so forth into being a wordsmith, being an author?
Well, I've always been creative, abundantly so. I was kind of a weirdo in high school, not unpopular, not without friends, but more like, oh yeah, there's that artist girl. Um, and uh, it wasn't until I went to college that I was like, people who think like me, these are my people. And so art school was really a new perspective for me, and it made me really enjoy art more. I have always been writing. Like in kindergarten, I would draw pictures, have my teacher write underneath what each picture was, and then staple them together to make a little book. And I've always been writing. I only started writing entire stories like in the last 15 years, because usually I'd like do a little bit and leave it and start something else, a new shiny idea. And that's how I started. That's how I published Rapunzel and Rapunzel's Prince about let's see, about 2011, I believe.
Ah, all right, all right. So now to actually dive deep into the behind the scenes of your writing journey. So Rapunzel and Rapunzel's Prince are the beginnings. They are the start of your journey. Now, from those two books, what really surprised you about, writing stories and publishing them? And looking back on your journey thus far, especially with, Beyond the Wall, is there anything you would have done differently in your journey?
Hmm. I what would I have done differently? I would have started learning more uh, purposefully earlier on. It's taken years for me to really be proud of my work. Like, I mean, I love Rapunzel and Rapunzel's Prince, but I look back. Every writer does this. They look back on their old drafts or their old books, and they're like, I could do so much better now. And I'm self-taught for writing. I didn't go to any classes or anything. I tried taking a creative writing class in college, and it turned out it was like creative nonfiction, which was not what I wanted to do. And I forgot where I was going with this. Hang on. Technical difficulty. I like to read blogs. I subscribe to newsletters. I read how-to books and books on editing. And so it was really, once I really got going with it and I was purposely learning about it, that's when my writing really improved. And with that, I enjoyed it even more. When I was writing, I was surprised by how badly I use commas. Oh, commas are going to be the death of me. And hiring editors, how wonderful they can be. And I've had negative experiences too.
Mm.
But somebody who can enjoy a story with me and brainstorm ideas and edit my work. It costs a lot more than I ever expected. So it's really a labor of love that you if you love it and you want to share it, you want to do it right. So
Right.
you need to spend that money to be done enough that somebody else would want to read it and not go, ooh, that's spelling error. Ooh, it takes them right out of the story. I also wish I'd learned more about marketing. That's probably the hardest thing for me, is trying to market a book. Or yourself. You're marketing yourself. You have your whole brand. And I don't like marketing myself. I just want to say, hey, look, I wrote a book, go read it. And the marketing is probably my biggest challenge.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that every author struggles with. I struggle with that as well. And that's something that we're going to be touching on much later when we get to the business side of being an author. Now, another thing I'm always very fascinated by is an author's process of, Do they start with an outline, or do they just write spontaneously? For you, Jessica, for your bodies of work, would you consider yourself an outliner, a planner, or more of a pantser?
I'm more of a pantser, but I heard a term recently that as soon as I heard it, I went, yes, that's me. And that was quilter.
Ooh, I don't think I've heard that one before.
Yeah, because I sporadically write these scenes. And it could be the beginning or just a bunch of in the middle or the very ending or a new beginning, a prequel. And then I kind of stitch them all together to make a book, fill in where there needs to be more, take out where there needs to be less. But the scenes just come to me, or I really think about them and develop them. It's not a story develops. It's not usually, maybe I have an end goal in mind, but I don't know how to get there. I know we're going to get there someday, somehow. And sometimes the goal changes. But as things come to mind is when I write them, and they're not in logical order, ever.
Ooh. That's actually really cool. Again, I've never heard of that, but I like that. I really, really like that. Now, the next question, which I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on, is of course, as authors, trying to balance everything out from our writing journeys and our personal lives. It is a lot. It can be sometimes overwhelming, and sometimes we find either a ritual or routine that works best for us that helps with the balancing. So for you, Jessica, as you began, writing your stories, how were you able to balance out the two? And were you able to find a routine that worked best in the sense of, are you more of a night owl when it comes to writing? Do you write at certain times of the day? What worked, or I should say, what works for you when it comes to your writing?
I do not have routine. A lot of my mental health plays into that because I used to be a night owl who would write all night, but my medication I take now, which helps me stay balanced mentally, makes it so I go to sleep at night. So I had to find a new time to do that. And with my life and my kids and I have 2 part-time jobs right now, and it's basically, some people come home and take a bubble bath and they relax. I come home and I get on my computer and I start typing. So it's usually there. It's definitely every week I get some writing done. Sometimes it's 3 days in a row. Sometimes it's 6 days apart. But a week doesn't go by where I don't write something down by hand or type in the computer, because I write a lot of stuff by hand. I don't know why. I guess it's the physical motion of it that kind of keeps the ideas going for me sometimes when I get stuck.
All right, all right. And now we're going to begin our first round of fan questions, Jessica. Now, the first fan question comes from one of my viewers who wants to know, throughout all of your books, how do you make sure that your characters feel authentic to the world that they are existing in and to the reader?
How do they feel authentic? Well, a lot of empathy comes into that.
Mm.
You have to. I'm a fan of this website called Writers Helping Writers, and they have the emotion thesaurus. And I love diving into there and saying, okay, what is somebody feeling in this kind of situation, and how would they react to it? I have to specifically. I have them do things. I have them say things, but then I have to really dive deep and saying, okay, what are they feeling when they say that? So it's a very purposeful application of emotion to the people, trying to make it authentic by doing research. And I love to have my characters have quirks, because I love, everybody has quirks. Like if you really get to know somebody, they're going to have something endearing about them. And I want my characters to reflect that, even though maybe they're quirkier than the typical person might be, but that's what makes them memorable. And I'm aiming for that emotional connection and that memorability.
Nice. Very, very nice, Jessica. Next fan question, and this is a two-parter. Throughout all of your stories, who has been your favorite character to flesh out? And do you have a favorite scene across all of your books?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. Um, hmm, uh, I think my two favorite characters in Beyond the Wall. I love my other characters, but one of the characters' name is Novak, and he is such a goofball, and I love that about him. And the just juxtaposition of him versus Daxia, the female lead,
Mm-hmm.
and the contrast in their personalities really makes it fun for me. And then that contrast of when he gets serious, this is what he does, and you're seeing, oh, this is a whole new side to him. That you saw this jokester for quite a while, and then suddenly he's serious about something, and you're amazed by how he changes and the depth there is to him. He's not just a jokester. He actually has feelings, and he actually has goals, and he actually um, genuinely wants them to survive this trip, because everything is trying to kill them, even the plants.
Ooh, nice. Now, the next fan question is now the opposite side of this question. Then we'll look at Beyond the Wall. In Beyond the Wall, who is the most challenging character to write? And do you have a difficult scene that took many revisions to bring to life?
Hmm. I think it was difficult to write Daxia, and this is a problem I keep running into in my books. And I can quote somebody in an early draft. They say, I don't believe she fell in love with him at the end because she's just too tough a nut to crack. All my female leads are strong-willed, and they are independent, and they need help at times, like everybody, but they really can stand on their own and get through their problems. And sometimes I go too far with that. And to find that emotional balance, that healthy balance of, yes, I'm independent and strong, but I also have friends and family who I can depend on, and who can depend on me, and trying not to make them too hard of a person, too callous.
Hmm.
And let's see, a hard scene. Mm, I don't know. The middle of the book was hard, because, and I find that again and again with my writing, because they take this long trek across this desert, and at the beginning everybody's like, they're just walking. Kind of reminds me of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. They're just walking for so long, and nobody wants to read that, so I had to break it up with different ideas and other scenes, and cut some to make it more interesting. I'm having that problem with my current book right now, which will release in a couple months, the next few months actually. It's called Erilyn.
Ooh, I like it.
My favorite character is her best friend Takiri. He's an AI of an airplane, and he is amazing. Like, everybody who reads it's like, I love Takiri. I'm like, I know. Um,
Awesome. Okay.
when I had trouble writing as uh, somebody you could relate to and empathize with.
Hmm. Very nice. Very, very nice, Jessica. Now, throughout all of your books, beginning with Rapunzel and Rapunzel's Prince, what's ultimately been your goal with each project overall as the author? And secondly, what is the promise you're making, not just to yourself as the author, but also your prospective readers?
Okay. The first question was, say that again.
Of course. So, for
Those two separate.
of course. So, the first part of this two-part question, With every project that you work on and embark on, what is the goal you have for yourself as the author?
The goal I have to bring a story to life, to find that balance and have people enjoy it as much as I do, and enjoy it reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. You want people to like it, but if you love something, somebody else out there is bound to love it too, even if you don't know them yet. And I want to reach those people who want what I'm delivering, who want, you asked about what I promise. I always promise happy endings. I always promise adventure, tension, um, interesting characters, and there's one more. Adventure, tension. I had one more in mind, but I've already forgotten it. And oh, that was right. Romance. Like that swoony romance. And I like to keep it closed door, which means, like I said before, kisses only. I've had a hard time finding a age category for my books, because my books are very young adult, but all the characters are older, like 18. Sometimes they're a little older. Sometimes they're like 17. So they're right around that age. It's adult, but they're still young adults. Because I don't want a 14-year-old kissing their love interest. I don't think I want them to fall madly in love. I want them to want to get married after this. And at 14, you don't want to do that. One of my publishers even said, "Can you make her younger?" And I was like, no, no, I can do it. They're going to get married. They shouldn't get married at 14.
Right. Absolutely. Very, very true. And that actual topic is something that we're going to again touch on when we get to the business side of being an author, and also a little bit of the reflective side as well. Now, moving forward, there's also another question I want to ask you, Jessica, and it's kind of like a pseudo reflective question, because it is something that a lot of guests I've had on the show have expressed. And that is, of course, claiming ownership of the title of being an author. Because as I've talked with a lot of people on the show, I've been doing this show now for about 7 years, which is absolutely insane. A lot of people, thank you. A lot of people that have been on the show have had different experiences with, friends and family of when they told them that they are authors. They usually told them in the beginning that they were an author and embarking on this journey. They told them after their book was published and started making money that this was something that they wanted to pursue. And I'm just really fascinated by, this hesitancy to claim ownership of being an author. For you, Jessica, when you embarked on this journey, when did you feel comfortable and confident in yourself, not only to claim ownership, but also let others know that this is who you are, then this is your new journey that you are embarking on?
Yeah, everybody wants that validation of being an author, not just a writer. I mean, I think the two terms can be used interchangeably, but it was once I started publishing books, and even then, I think it took my third or fourth book for me to really be like, okay, I'm not an imposter. I really am an author. After 3 or 4 books, I should be, and I'm getting good feedback and good reviews, and I don't get a lot of visibility. I have a good newsletter, and but I'm not good on social media. Like I should post every week, and I don't. And it's something that it doesn't scare me, but I feel inept about it. But what was the question again?
Of course. So I think you answered the first part of, when did you feel confident about, claiming the titleship of being an author, which you said that, after your third and fourth book were published, you then realize, okay, I'm not an imposter. I am an author. From that point, when did you tell friends and family that you were an author and embarking on this journey?
Um, I have one more point about that validation of being an author.
Okay.
My fourth book, I'm not going to have my third book. My fourth book, Beyond the Wall, was accepted by an indie publisher. I have not applied. Actually, how I got that contract is very interesting because they had a first chapter contest.
Ooh.
And
Nice.
I entered. And the next day after I entered, the owner of the what are they called? Press, the publisher, the owner of the publishing company emailed me and said, hey, I can't do anything with the contest. I'm not a judge, but can you send me the rest of that? And that was like, wow, somebody likes it. It actually is good. And then they published it for me. And that was total validation. And then when I got awarded, I got awards for my work. That was validation. I think I've always felt like an imposter author. Like I would tell people I'm a writer, but friends and family, let's see. I'm not really sure when I made the switch or if I even needed to. Maybe I always said I was an author. My family, they are amazing and supportive of what I want to do, but they are not readers. I think my mom read all my books. My mom's read all my books. Not that she likes to read, but that she's supportive. But my husband doesn't read. My kids don't. Well, they'll read graphic novels, but my husband hasn't read my books. My mother-in-law, my dad, my brother, my kids, nobody else in my family has read my books. They're just, it's not their thing. And that's okay. But it would be nice to be like, hey, what do you think about this scene? And they're like, so that instantaneous support of just turning to the person next to you is not there. But they are so emotionally and physically supportive. I can't say enough about my family.
That's amazing, Jessica. That is amazing that you have that support system of, your friends and family who are very, very, very supportive. And now, kind of going back a little bit, this is a question that I've been asking authors on the show recently because it has sparked a little debate that I've been seeing. Now, in your opinion, what do you think classifies someone as a writer as opposed to someone who sees himself as an author? Is there a difference? Are the terms interchangeable, or is there a clear distinction between a writer and an author?
I don't think there's a clear distinction. I really don't. I mean, I could say that someone who's published a book is an author versus someone who just writes for writing. But even then, there are some books that aren't at a caliber that I would enjoy reading them. They aren't quite edited enough or analyzed enough by the author, and they're just like, oh, I gotta publish this right now. But I really think the terms are interchangeable. Like, you could say someone's a published author, but you could also say someone's an unpublished author. Like, they're still creating these stories and these worlds. Just because they haven't put it out there for everybody else to read doesn't devalue their story. So I didn't feel like an author until I started publishing things. But I don't think people who haven't published aren't authors. I think it's interchangeable with writer.
All right, all right. I'm kind of one lines the same way. Like I view myself as an author even before I, was professionally published as an indie author. I began writing back in 2020, putting on my books on sites like Inkit and so forth, just to get a little bit of awareness and some reviews here and there. And the reviews have been pretty good. So I absolutely agree, Jessica. And now we're actually going to go into the next segment of the interview, the reflective side of being an author. And now, sort of as an icebreaker, this question is actually going to combine quite a few. So this is going to be a very loaded question. So I'll give some context for this. Now, as I'm sure you'll definitely agree, social media has greatly changed the playing field for authors, whether you're hybrid, indie, trad, small press, what have you. Social media was not like what it was 20 years ago. It was still in its infancy age, and the term hybrid, small press, and indie authors to some people was seen as a lesser form of publication, unlike, traditional, which was, the standard. But as time has gone on, hybrid, small press, and indie authors are now on the same footing as trad authors. And in fact, a lot of people are preferring to go those routes instead of being trad. And social media is a huge boon. It allows us to interact with our readers, promote our books. Is it a hassle? Yes, absolutely. We're able to network. We're able to get our editors. We're able to find our artists and stuff like that. But on the flip side, social media has greatly increased our writer's block in the sense of people are expecting, when the next book's going to be, or is there going to be a sequel, and we may not know how to write the next book. Imposter syndrome, when people are, and they do this with, like, the best of intentions, saying like, oh, books like, Brian Sanderson, Frank Herbert Students, like this book is for those. And then for us on the receiving end, it's like, do we really consider ourselves in the same caliber as those titans, and just feeding into our imposter syndrome? And then, of course, the negative side of social media, it is emotionally draining, it's taxing. We leave ourselves exposed to the hate speech, trolls, spam, what have you. And it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming and loud. So, my question to you is this, Jessica. With all that said and more, what has disciplined you to stay true to yourself as the author who began this journey of yours back with your first set of books?
To stay true to myself.
Yes.
I don't know. You sent me some questions beforehand, which I appreciated, the things you might ask. And one of them touched on true to myself, touched on who I write for.
Mm-hmm.
And I always write for myself. Like, I'm not hoping to fit the fads or the social expectations you might have. I always write for myself. Like, Operative Attract is going to someday have a sequel, but it's not going to be now, because I'm like, nope, no, I wrote that. I'm going to take a break in that world because I don't want to write it right now. I'm not going to pressure myself to write something I don't want to write right now, unless I've made a commitment, but I haven't. So I write for myself. I'm not pandering to other people.
Right.
And therefore I feel like I've been myself. I have trouble expressing myself via social media, but I do pretty good with the written word.
I understand. I agree. So, kind of from that point, let's actually jump ahead to some next set of questions. And these ones are kind of the big questions that I have been seeing a lot and have noticed over the years. So, let's start with the first one. And this one talks about, the influx of new writers post COVID. Because after COVID, or even before, during like the middle years, everybody was in isolation, everybody was trying to stay busy, and a lot of writers were born from that point in time. I myself was one of them. I began writing back in 2020. And in fact, Jessica, just last year, a lot of authors that I featured on the show a majority began their careers during COVID, or had already books written, but during the COVID period began to publish, network, and build their brand. And this has led to this debate of, are we in a golden age because of all these new creative people, and not just authors. You have graphic designers, artists, illustrators, editors, and of course, narrators. But as time has gone on, and with technology also advancing, this has, shifted the discussion of, are we more so leaning towards an iron age, not as shiny, but just as strong? And there's a split in this argument where you have people who are passionate about the industry, who want to grow, who want to, have a future, and those that simply just join just to make a quick buck, which is not true. This is not a get rich quick industry. It is a hustle and a bustle. It is a grind. Now, I'm sure you and I can both agree, if we were able to make multi-million-dollar contracts and live off the royalties of our books, we would do so in a heartbeat. We would live off the success. We would quit our jobs. But that's not the case at the moment. So ultimately, Jessica, here is my question to you. In your opinion, and from your own experiences, do you believe that we are still in a golden age of authors and creatives, or have we shifted to more so of an iron age?
That is a tough question for me to answer because it's not taking AI into account.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. We're going to be talking about AI very, very shortly.
But yeah, we can talk about that more later if you want. But the fact that I don't know what's real anymore really makes you question everything. And that's, you don't know if it's a golden age or if it's a technology age, or I don't know how to answer that question, because of the influx of AI produced materials is muddying the waters for me.
Right. Absolutely. So I guess, if you had to choose, would you say that we were in a golden age, but with the rise of AI, going into this next question, we have shifted towards an iron age, but maybe possibly teetering towards a technological dark age of AI driven content?
I'm leaning towards the Iron Age.
Okay, all right. Now, jumping from this point, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is AI. Now, it is shocking to see how advanced AI has gotten in the last few years or so. And everyone remembers the iconic, Will Smith eating the spaghetti, and everyone laughed at that. It was very, very crude. But as technology has improved, shockingly, it's gotten so much better. And unfortunately, it's been used in a lot of other creative outlets. ACX, which is owned by Audible and Amazon, has now been using a lot of AI narration as opposed to human voices from their narrators. I have had a lot of good friends who have been very, very outspoken about this. And then, not to mention generative AI in terms of books. I'm sure you may have seen the news article that was floating around of an author who stated that she had used a software program to create 200 books and publish them using generative AI. And it's just, in the point, you're not an author, you're just a web designer, you're just a coder, because you had to put something in to generate all that, and you're an editor at that point. Now, AI is going to be in everything we do. There's no way we can get around it. And as authors, there's a fine line between being staunchly against AI and knowing when to use AI correctly. AI is in everything, like autocorrect. That's AI in and of itself. So we can't say we're against the use of AI. But I think we can all agree that generative AI is the main issue at hand. And I would just like to hear your thoughts more on this, Jessica. And if there is a plausible use of AI for authors to use. One example, I had a guest on the show not too long ago who said that the only way you could use generative AI for helping you is for research topics or brainstorming potential book ideas. Because from there, okay, there's an idea you like, perfect. Now write it. That has to be on you. That's just one example, but I would like to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Um, I do use AI in my spell check. I have a fairly advanced spell check and editing system that if I skip a word, it'll be like, hey, you skipped a word here. And I misspelled something, and it somehow magically knows that the word I wanted is this one. So that's about the extent I use AI for. I really don't need help with brainstorming because I have all these ideas popping out of my head all the time. I have 32, last I counted, different Word documents, each with its own unique idea. Some of them are 50 pages, some of them are 2, but they're each their own story that I may get to someday. So I never needed AI for brainstorming. I don't think people should claim responsibility for an AI generated product. Like, you have to know how to ask the right questions to get the results you want. So instead of saying by this person, it would have to be like edited or coded by, or that's how I kind of feel like it's a misnomer to say it's by somebody when it's actually generated using their guidance.
Yes, absolutely.
And I feel that the flooding of AI does devalue a lot of work because you don't know what's real anymore, and it's taking away jobs from people who like writers.
Yes.
And AI has its flaws, but it can also be a very valuable tool. And it feels like cheating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might not be for somebody else because maybe I can see it being a tool. I can see somebody who's maybe dyslexic, who can't type, who, get it to organize their thoughts, help them taking what they have and putting it in words and on paper. I can see that. My brother's dyslexic, so I know how it can be a challenge. And so I can see it as a tool, but claiming it as art in itself, I think would be devaluing what's already there. Now, I did learn later that the cover of Beyond the Wall is AI assisted, is what I was told. So I loved this cover. As soon as I saw it, I said, yes, that's her. We need this cover. And I don't know how I feel about it now that I know AI was involved. Because I really thought it was painted. I guess we never could have afforded it if it was actually painted. But I've known people who can paint like this, so I really thought it maybe was, but I shouldn't have assumed anything. I try to be Taunting Gravity also. I published Beyond the Wall and Taunting Gravity with an indie press, an indie publisher, and so both of those covers are AI assisted. But Operatives Attract, I hired. It went through a revamp. I was not tricked, but I ended up using a vanity press without knowing it. Like I was kind of brand new, taking my toddler steps, and this one author was like, "Oh, these people are so great," and they really weren't. They were not.
No.
It was terrible. So we parted ways, and they took the cover of operative track with them, which it wasn't great anyway, honestly. And they took all the reviews with them, and I had to start all from scratch. I had my story still, that was mine, but I had to self-publish it. I had to get it formatted. I needed to get an ISBN for it, but I did hire somebody to draw, and I think they digitally painted this.
Not bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, and it does convey a lot more of the story than the original did. And then Rapunzel and Rapunzel's Prince, I did these.
Nice.
So that was 15 years ago, and I've kind of lost a lot of my artist muscles in the drawing department, which I'm ashamed of and I'm very sad about. But you don't use it, you lose it, and I'm sad that I lost it without even realizing it, or I would have kept it up. AI, it just, I've hired an illustrator that I met at a con to do the cover of my next book, and it looks really good. It's gonna look so good. But it's just flooding the system. I watch these videos. I'm like, oh, that's so funny. I wonder if it's AI. Like
I know.
everything. And my I would hate for someone to mistake my hard work as AI, but it could easily happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it as a valuable tool, not for me personally, but I don't think somebody else should take the credit for something that AI wrote or drew or etc.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Now, as we go into the final segment, the business side of being an author, you already did mention about, a little bit of the marketing side a little bit. So now I'm going to change the icebreaker question to something a little bit different. So here is my question for you, Jessica. What was probably your best experience marketing your books, and which book were you surprised when you marketed that people most know you for better? If that makes sense. I know as authors we write so many different books, but there's normally one book that we write that people are going to know us for, and it's from that book that we market the most.
Well, I'm featuring Beyond the Wall because it is the fan favorite. Pretty much everybody says, yeah, the other books are all good, but this one was great. And that's kind of my starting point for getting people into reading my work, is I start them off with Beyond the Wall. So when the best marketing I've had and with the most tangible results were for each book release, I had a book release event, like a party. And even though Operative to Track came out during the pandemic, kind of near the end, I still had a good turnout. And then Beyond the Wall and Taunting Gravity, it was amazing how many people came and they listened to me read the first chapter. And they bought books and they asked questions, and we had the author Q&A. So I felt like having that event with the most tangible results that I've had. It's hard to see where your effort is helping or showing up, but that was something I felt very good about. It was mostly local, obviously, my local marketing of my book launch.
Nice. All right. Now they talk about a big thing when it comes to marketing, is that knowing our audience. Because as you mentioned earlier, Jessica, you write for you. You write your books for you. You are passionate about that. But even with that said, when we write and publish, we also have to understand that, okay, who exactly are we marketing to, or who is this book going to be the most interested in, or perhaps not the way to say it, but like when we write our books, we have to know it's like, okay, am I writing a fantasy book? Okay, what kind of fantasy book? What genre or subgenre will it belong to? And with that in mind, we also have to know readers in those subgenres have expectations of how stories are supposed to go. And as the authors, we find ourselves in this teetering act where we want to showcase authenticity, but we also have to be knowledgeable of, we don't want to write a story that's too familiar that will be seen as a knockoff version of an existing title, but not something that's too original, that's going to be too confusing. It's this nice equilibrium balance. So looking at Beyond the Wall, how are you able to get an idea of the audience for that book, as well as understanding and balancing your individuality with marketability for that book?
I sometimes don't know my audience. I know that's a
Mm.
bad thing. That's really bad. And I know it's really bad. Um, and I can't find comparable titles because I don't know what to compare them to. I feel like I need someone else to tell me. And nobody ever has. So I don't know how to compare my books to other books. Um, Beyond the Wall is romance, obviously. So, and you got that happily ever after. And it's fantasy because there are all these amazing creatures and secret caches of jewels and pirates, and it's got all these intense elements to it that make it a fantasy versus my science fiction books, which are pure science fiction with romance, because I can't get away from the romance. I love romance. And a happily ever after is a staple in romance, for example. Um, but I've been leaning more into tropes lately
Mm.
because in, I'm more, I got my finger on the pulse of the romance community mostly. I'm not sure where to start with the others because of the subgenres are of science fiction and fantasy. I'm having a hard time finding my place in those genres and subgenres. But leaning into, let's see, what's Beyond the Wall. It's reverse grumpy sunshine, for example, and finding the tropes that people like. And the tropes are, for those who don't know, it's like a reoccurring theme. Like grumpy sunshine is there's a person who's grumpy and there's a person who's sunshine, and the opposites attract or complement each other.
Oh,
For
okay.
example, um, and that's a typical building block. And there are a million variations on it. You can make a whole different characters based on this one idea, but they make it relatable because people are like, oh, I know that idea. I know that concept. So I'm trying to lean into tropes more so I can explain what it's about. It's clarity of explanation right there. But I don't know who I'm marketing to. I mean, opposites attract. If you look at the cover, it is obviously young adult. And the rest of them, I can't decide if they're young adult or adult because they are young people, but they're dealing with situations that even adults have to deal with.
Mm.
Complex situations like, who am I? Am I really a person? And things like that. And is this worth the sacrifice I'm making? Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know my audience, and that's bad author. I know. Um,
I'm 100% with you in that, Jessica. I still struggle to find my audience. I write fantasy, sci-fi, historical fiction, speculative fiction. It's not easy. It absolutely is not easy, but luckily, I've been able to find like my tribe, my group of people who are fellow authors, and have become, my audience, which I absolutely love. And I've learned a lot from these people, and they have helped me so much. And kind of with that said, as a little fun question, I know you mentioned earlier that you're able to hire somebody to be the cover artist for one of your books from a local convention. And I'm wondering, are there any other people you'd like to give a shout out to who have helped you on your journey? Anyone from your own personal inner circle that you've built over the years?
Oh, there's so many supportive communities. I did start out using Critique Circle. I
Mm.
I think that's still going on. I haven't used it in years now, but in the beginning, I would submit a chapter into the Critique Circle uh, group. It's a based system where you can submit work and then you also critique other people's work, and they get feedback from multiple people. Um, and that helped me a lot find out what other people thought and how they reacted to what I was writing. Now I have a couple of fabulous beta readers. I love everything they say, even when it's bad, even when it's like this needs work. One of them actually I met when she was in the 4th grade, and I was doing a little tour of the military schools where I was from, and I was talking about Rapunzel and writing, and they were all so excited. Oh, a military brat who is writing and doing things and came back to visit us. But she was in the 4th grade, and she loved Rapunzel. And many years later, I got an email that said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we talked when I was in the 4th grade, and now I'm a copywriter. You inspired me to write." And
Awesome.
it just made you feel so good. But she's one of my beta readers, and her reactions are just priceless. They're really what I want to hear back from people. Like she all her comments react in the moment. Like, no, don't do that. Okay, he didn't do that. Oh no. Okay, this part's weird. And or this guy sounds creepy. But I have a couple of local authors, and all of our genres have nothing to do with each other. R.A. Miller is a horror and dark fantasy author who I'm good friends with, and we're very supportive of each other's work. R.M. Hamrick, she does some humorous space or science fiction, like Golden Girls in Space.
Ooh,
And
I like that.
post zombie apocalypse books, and she does alien erotica. And let's see, the other person is J. Paul Rowe, who does cyberpunk. And so
Ooh.
all of us have almost nothing to do with each other, the genre wise, but we're all so supportive of each other. And we actually do events together, because I do a lot of events, and that's probably where my most book sales are, and my most networking, and it's the funnest part. But at these events, the tables are usually very expensive, so usually we split the cost, and we'll
Yes.
do like half a table each, and that's very helpful. Let's see who else. My illustrator, I hate to say this, I know her name is Grace. I think her last name is Brooks. I can look it up for you later if you'd like, and that you could post it somewhere. And my formatter and cover designer is Melissa Williams. Let's see, I think that's all I got. My publisher for 2 of my books was Stag Beetle Books, and the rest of them I self-published. My next book in self-publishing. But I love my betas. I have somebody who subscribed to my newsletter, and she lives in Australia. I don't know how she got on it, but she did. And she and her 14-year-old son both beta read for me. And I was like, okay, how is a 14-year-old boy going to take this story? And he loved it. It made me so happy. But they each had their unique perspectives that when put together, I was like, oh, I see where I need to work on this. When they said the same thing, both, I could see the flaws. And then when they liked the same things, I was like, cha-ching, I'm doing that right. I
Nice.
probably wandered off topic now. I forgot what the question was.
No, you
Got it.
pretty much answered it like fully. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you. And before we get to the final question of this incredible author interview, this one is probably it's a little bit of the business side, but also a little bit of the reflective side. And this question, it varies depending on the author. And I would like to know, in your opinion, when you have come to the end of every book that you have written, which did you find more difficult to accept? Knowing when the book was finished or knowing when to stop writing?
Knowing when the book was finished or knowing when to stop writing. Those are such subtly different questions that it's hard to pinpoint. I feel like I have trouble figuring out when to stop editing, because editing will add scenes and take out scenes, and so I'm still writing, and that's okay. But the editing process, when is it edited enough? When is it as good as it can get? So maybe when I stop that, I guess that's finished. That's when hard to know when it's finished. Hard to know at what point is this my best work, and should I put it out there for reader consumption?
Right.
So I would definitely say when to stop editing and revising. Just stop touching it. You're done. Leave it alone.
Nice.
Even looking back on Rapunzel, I still like the story. It's got this lovely little story, but I read it and I'm like, ooh, there's adverbs and there's weird dialogue, and so I want to go back and change it, but I'm like, no, it's already out there. It is going to live in its own little world. I'm not going back to changing it because that would drive me crazy. It's what it is, and it reflects how I was at the time. So
Absolutely. And now, Jessica, we arrive at the final question of this amazing author interview. Now, we talked about a lot of things. You've shared some of your own experiences, given some incredible examples and answers to a lot of these questions. At the end of the day, with all of your books, what do you want people to take away from, and what is your word of wisdom to your fellow authors and writers listening and watching this interview right now?
I kind of like my books to be like escapism. So they're fluffy. They're not real serious. You read them, you enjoy them, and they make you a little happy. Maybe they make you tense sometimes, but it's a ride that you'll get through it, and you'll end on a high note. And it just takes you away from what you're doing right now, and it's not too heavy. I mean, sometimes the topics are a little heavy, but it's dealt with in a way that isn't going to make you feel sad. I want to feel that way after reading a book. There are some great books that you read and then throw across the room at the end going like, how could you do this to me? How could you do that to your characters? Why? And you're so angry, but it was so good. But okay, maybe in the middle you'll throw my book across the room because you'll wonder that. But at the end of the day, I want a satisfying ending for my audience. And you said word of wisdom. Just get the words on the page. Put the words on the page. If you don't have sand, you can't build a sand castle. If you don't have words, you can't edit it into something pretty. And the first draft is always going to be hideous. Don't show your first draft to anybody. And I had one more thing. Write what you love. Twice. Write what you love, because there is going to be somebody out there who loves it too. And write what you love, because you're going to be rereading it 178 times while you edit. So make sure you like it.
Yes, beautifully said, Jessica. And on that note, everybody, we conclude this amazing author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. Want to give a huge thank you to Jessica for coming on the show, making her official debut, and hopefully not the last time we see her on the show. Now, Jessica, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and connect, purchase a copy of one of your books, and will you be doing any in-person events later this year?
Let's see. My books are all available on Amazon in ebook and print. I'm looking into doing audiobooks. Okay, where can you find me? My name is Jessica Kaye, Kaye. So my website is jessicakaye.net. So JESSICAKAYE.net. You can find me on Instagram as Jessica Kaye Author. And I'm on Facebook somewhere. I have a page. I don't know how to find it. I barely know how to update it. But I'm working on that. And I also have a newsletter that comes out every week. You can find that, sign up on my website. Let's see. I also do events listed on my website for people to find me. And currently, for like the first time, I have no upcoming events for this next year. I might do this event called YA by the Bay in the summer, which is, I did it last year. It's free to be an author there, but you're on panels, and teenagers are bussed in from Hillsborough and Pasco County, one for each day. And they talk to authors, they buy their books, they learn about writing. So it's really a special day for these kids. And I loved being a part of that, and I'm hoping to do it again this year. But other than that, I think I need a break. I just did 3 cons like within the last 3 months. And they're so much fun, but there's so much work. And the last one was outside. Oh my word, it was hot and sunny. I live in Florida, so it's been cold here, but not that day. That day was. We had a number of cosplayers walking around, and we're like, man, I don't envy you. You must be so hot in your outfit. They're like, yeah, I'm getting out of it real soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will link all that down below in the description of this video, everybody. Thank you again for joining us for another amazing episode here on the channel. A huge thank you to our guest, Jessica, for coming on the show. And if you'd like to see her back again in a follow-up episode later this year, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as another announcement, if you have not seen my previous episodes, I'll be making my second appearance at the LA County Festival of Books at booth 128. I'll be tabling from 10 to 12:30 and 3 to 5:30 on April 18th, Saturday only. So if you want to meet me in person and order a copy or 2 of my books, remember, I'll be at booth 128. And as always, thank everyone for joining us for another amazing episode here on the channel. As this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you all next time.